I'm Concatenate the genius, and today we are going to be continuing with day 7 of our Python in 10 days. If you've come this far, I'd like to say thumbs up to you. And today what are we going to be talking about? We are going to be talking about collections in Python. There are 3 types of collection in Python. We have Python lists, we have Python dictionary, and we have Python tuple. I think we also have Python sites. We are going to be looking at it right in the classroom. If you are joining for the first time, I would like to recommend you hit the subscribe button below. Subscribe so that you don't miss any update from Concatenate the genius. And also activate notification by hitting on the bell icon just beside the subscribe button. So let's get into the classroom and let's start working with lists, strings, dictionary, and tuples in Python. So we are going to start with lists. If you go to concatenate.com/python, you will come to a list of items. You actually will see this list of items. So we are taking these 3 lists, tuples, and dictionary. Now, if you are joining for the first time, hit the subscribe button so that you subscribe and you don't miss any update from me. Because sometimes I make really very short and simple lessons that can actually summarize everything. In that case, you get notified immediately. So hit that subscribe button. Also activate notification. If you have challenges following my lessons, please leave me a comment below. Alright, so there are operations you can perform in a list, but before we talk about operations, what is a list? A list is simply a collection of items like this. In the first case, we have a collection of strings or a collection of words. In the second case, we have a collection of characters, even some numbers are in it. In this case, it's also a valid list. The second case we have, the last one's course is made up of a collection of integer values. Of course, you can also add floating point values. For instance, 87.5 or 8 is also a valid list. So this is one thing you need to know, and I'm going to write the key point you need to know in a list is that list is created with square brackets. Keep this in your mind because this is the key difference between a list and a tuple. Basically, and a tuple, that's one difference. Another difference we're going to be talking about it a little later. So in the case of grades, we have it mixed. So if I run this code by right-clicking and say run, it will run perfectly. So how do we access the values in a list? For instance, we have names. This solace, the first item is named 0. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3. That is how to access the items in a list. So basically, if I print out name 0 by saying print name 0, is going to actually print solace. So if I go ahead to run it by clicking on this button, you can see it prints out. So in the same way, we have names 1, names 2, names 3. So the index starts from 0. Now, how do we modify the items in a list? You can add new item to a list using the append method. So for instance, let me print out the list of names. If I print out the list of names, it's going to print out the list of names, the 4 names there. But let's assume I want to add an item to a list. I can use the append method. If I also want to update items in a list, I can simply use the index and overwrite it. So we are saying that name 0, you already know that name 0 is the first item in the list, which is this one. But if I reassign name 0 by saying name 0 is equal to solace, more or less I add the surname to the list. So at this point, if I write it, if I run this code, it's going to overwrite this solace and replace it with solace okeke. You can see it's replaced it right there. So you can actually also replace the item completely with a completely different item. So I can replace the second one, which is list 1, is equal to, I can just say Jaden, and it's also going to work. So it simply will replace the item with a new item. So that's how to update list item. Now, how do you add new items to a list? So you want to add new items to a list, you use the append method. How does the append method work? So let's say we want to add one more name to this list. I can simply say names dot append and then specify the item you want to add. So I want to add Jadon to this list. So it's going to add Jadon to the list. So if I run it at this point, you can see that Jadon is appended at the end of the list. All right, so we also have deleting items from a list. So we have these 4 items that we already have in this list. How do we delete an item from the list? You use the remove method. So if I say names.remove, you can just specify the item you want to remove. So I want to remove the first item, which is Solace. Once I run this code, that item is removed, and we only have 3 items in the list. The same thing can also be achieved using the del method. So in this case, so the del is actually a function. So if I say del names 0 is going to also remove the first item in the list. So if I run it, you can see that we have only 3 items. Let's now look at some list operations you'll need to know. So for the first thing you want to learn, the one of them is len. So len returns the length of the list. So if I print out len of names, it's going to print out 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's actually not printing the index, but the number of items in the list, and that we have 4. And the same way, if I print out len grades, is also going to print out 6, which is the number of items in that list. So you can actually concatenate 2 lists together. So let's concatenate names and grades. So we can concatenate it. That is joining them together by saying, let's call this list list 3 is equal to names plus grades. It's as simple as that. So it concatenates or adds the 2 lists together. So if I print list 3 now, you'll see that it will print out everything as one list. As you can see right here, everything has been joined as one list. You can also have something called a repetition operator. So repetition operator is simply a way to repeat or multiply a list by 2. So if I say names repeated by into two times, is going to you can see it doubles it. So we have the first time, it doubles it by making it a second one. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is really very important. This sometimes you might forget it. You want to print out all the items in a list. So you can use a for loop for item in names. For item in names, print item. So if you do this, it's going to print out all the names in the list in different lines, or each of them printed in new line. Let's now talk about indexing, slicing, and matrices. What we do when we say something like names 0, we call it indexing. We are indexing the 0th element of the list. All right, so when it comes to slicing, in this case, we are trying to take parts of the list. So let me see if I can explain it. Let's take, for instance, we want to get maybe names. Let me just show you something. Names of -1. What do you think will come when you say names -1? So when you use a negative index, it's going to give you the element at the ends of the list. So it's going to start at the other end of the list. So in this case, it gives us praise jar. And also if you say -2, is second to the last element at the end of the list. So in this case, it returns trust. So that's one thing you also need to know. Now there's something called a range operator. You use a range operator to slice a list item. For instance, we have scores. It's made up of 6 items. We want to take the first 3 items. So you can actually go from list name 0 colon and specify the last item you want to take. So if I go name 0 to name 3, take note that is going to give us only 2 items, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it gives us name 0, name 1, and name 2, right? So actually name 3 is not included in this list. So take note of that. If you want to get, let's say, name 1 to name 3, so it's going to give you name 1 and name 2. So if I go at this time, it's going to give us name 1 and name 2, because name 3, which is praise jar, is not inclusive. Now, if you leave out the last item in the range operator, it's going to take it all the way to the end, right? So if you don't specify the last item, it's going to take it to the end. Again, if you don't specify the first item and you only give the last item, is also going to take it from the beginning. In this case, it's going to take it from name 0 to name 3 to name 2, I mean. All right. So I've not tried when you don't specify anything. I think it's going to give everything in the list when you don't specify anything. There are a number of functions that you can use to work with lists. For instance, len, we've talked about it, length of a list. Max returns the maximum value in a list. Min returns the minimum value in a list. List seq converts a tuple to a list. We are going to be talking about tuples after now. So there are a number of list methods you might want to know. For instance, we have list.insert. Insert an object into a list at a specified index. So for instance, I can say names. Sorry, let me just go with this. I can say names.insert. Insert at index 2. Okay, I insert at index 0, and I want to insert this item, and let's see. So at this point, I'm inserting an item at index 0. It's going to push all the other items further, or it's going to shift them further. We also have list.pop, removes and returns the last object in the list, right? So if I say print names.pop, it's going to return the last item in the list. So in this case, praise jar is returned. List.remove, list.reverse, and list.sort. So in this case of list.sort, I would like to just demonstrate it so that you get used to it. So again, I'll recommend you do these things by yourself. List.sort, return it sorted in names.sort, sort the list. Names.sort. Okay, so when we execute names.sort, it simply sorts the list. So I can actually execute it here, and at the end I can just print names. So it's going to return it in sorted order. So already it seems to be sorted, as you can see right here. KOPST is sorted, and that is about list.sort. So take your time to maybe watch the video if you want and play around with all the other methods and all the other functions in the list. All right, let's now move to the next part, and the next part we are going to be talking about will be tuples in Python. Now, what is tuples? A tuple is also a list of items. Basically it behaves almost exactly like a list. Let me just tell you the difference between a tuple and a list. Tuple is a sequence of objects. However, the difference is that tuples are immutable. So you can't change a tuple, and this means that you cannot change the value of the element in a tuple. Another difference between a tuple and a list is that you create a tuple using rounded braces. So the easiest thing for us to do is to simply convert all these tuples we have here into lists. How do we do that? I told you, you simply replace the square bracket with rounded brackets, and what you have is a tuple. So it's as easy as that. So keep in mind, you create a tuple using rounded brackets, and you create a list using square bracket. Outside that, many of the operations are about the same, except that a tuple cannot be changed. So let's demonstrate what we are talking about. Meanwhile, I can scroll down. Okay, these are creating a new tuple and stuff like that. Okay, so basically almost about the same thing with lists, but see what happens when I try to say Let me try to replace names. Something we did successfully in list. We have tried to do it in tuple. Let's see what happens. Name 0 is equal to Kindson, and let's see. I'm going to run it. So you can see tuple object does not support item assignment. But if you see I change it back to list, you'll see that it's going to simply work perfectly well. So that is one thing you want to know, that tuples are immutable. You cannot change them once they have been created. Alright, so this is what happens when we try to modify a tuple. Basic operations of a tuple is about the same with lists. So I would like to recommend you take your time to understand it by running this code snippet here and trying to check what these functions is going to return. So at this point, we are going to move to the next part, and that will be dictionaries. Now, this is an interesting data structure in Python. Dictionaries are a bit different than tuples and lists. All right, so dictionary is made up of key value pairs. Let's see. A dictionary in Python stores item in a way a normal dictionary stores item. So how does a dictionary store item? In each entry, we have two items, a key and a value. For instance, in the English dictionary, we have list of words. For each word, there is a definition corresponding to this word. So this is what is called a value. That word is a key and the value is a definition. And normally when you use a dictionary, you're trying to look up the value by using the key. That is why we say dictionary stores key value pairs. The key and the value are separated using a colon, and then each entry is separate from each other by a comma. And also a Python dictionary is created using curly braces. So for instance, we want to create a student record. We can create it in this way as a dictionary of items like this. So in this case, I've created a student object or a student dictionary. And in this case, we have the key, the name, location, score, grade, and address. All right. And the values are at this right-hand side. We have the values right here. All right. So how do we access values in a dictionary? To access value in a dictionary, simply specify the key. So for instance, if I want to get the name of the student, I can simply print student dot student and specify name. Okay, so specify name. So what is going to be printed out at this time is Emily William. That is the name of the student. It's going to be printed out. So once you specify the key, it's going to print out the value. All right. So that is very useful when you are trying to do something like days of the week. Let's take, for instance, days of the week can be something like this, created as a dictionary of items. 1 is for Monday, 2 is for Tuesday, and 3 is for Wednesday, and so on. So if you want to print out the days corresponding to each of the numbers, you can simply say print days of week, and day of week 3 is going to print out Wednesday. If I run it, you can see it prints out Wednesday. Alright, so this is exactly how dictionaries work in Python. I would like to give you a little assignment, and this assignment I'm going to be giving you goes this way. Create a dictionary of the months of the year. So in this case, I want you to create a dictionary. January is 1, February 2, March 3, exactly the same way we did at this point. And then you modify this code to return this month and next month. I hope it's clear. Try to do it and leave the answer in the comment box below this video. Note that we can only access values using keys that exist in the dictionary. So if you say days of week 8, it's going to give us an error. So if I run days of week 8, trying to access days of week 8, it's going to give us error because that key is not there. So the key have to exist in the dictionary before you can access the value for that key. Also, we cannot modify the keys. We can only modify the values. So we cannot assign days of week. 8, for instance, we cannot change these keys right here. But we can actually change the days of week. Let's say I can say days of week 1. Let's move it outside. Or instead of doing it in this place, let me just do it with the names. So let's say we want to change the student's name. Let me shift this one downwards. You want to change the name of the student from Emily William to, let's say, students name is equal to Emily William Norman. Alright, so this is the way you do it, and you kind of replace the existing name with this name. Let me run it at this point so we can see. Okay, so we did not print out anything. So I can actually print out student name. You can see that the name have actually changed to something else. So if I print it out, you can see that the name actually changed to this. All right. So that's how to modify items in a dictionary. How do we add a new item to a dictionary? You simply specify the new item, key, and value. It's as simple as that. Simply specify a key and a value for the new item. So let's say in this case of Emily, I can actually add maybe nationality and language. So let me just copy this. Let me just paste this. Paste. Okay, let me just leave it this way. I don't know the nationality if it works, but the language, English, that's great. So what I'm going to do is to, at the end of adding these two items, why are we having all these wiggly lines? Dictionary creation could not be written as dictionary literal. Does it make any sense to me? Right, so that is fine. Everything is okay. So I can actually print students. So if I print students, it's actually going to print all the items in the dictionary. So if you look, if you look at the output, you can see name, Emily William, location Nigeria. So it behaves similar to a JSON object. So how do you delete an item from a dictionary? You delete by using del and specify the key you want to delete. So if I delete, you can delete the location, and the location will be gone. So look at location at this point, location Nigeria. If I run this code, it says location is no more. All right, so we have dictionary functions in Python. Python provides a number of useful functions that can be used with dictionaries, and these functions are given in the table below. So compare dict1, dict2. In this case, we are comparing two dictionaries and trying to check whether they are the same. So it's going to return either a true or a false. I think, okay, so the compare does not work in Python 3 because now I'm using Python 3. Len dict returns the total length of items exactly the same way it works with a string and a tuple. strdict returns a printable string representation of the dictionary. So if I say, if I'm printing str, I don't know, I think it's gonna work, but let's see. So again, the key thing about Python is simply try to do it yourself. So if you say str student is also going to print it out. Type returns the type of variable passed. If the passed variable is a dictionary, then it's going to return the dictionary. So let's say I try to say student. Let's see what is going to, not student, it's going to be type. I'm going to execute type here, and it returns class dict. And let me try it with names. I suppose names is going to be a list. So it says class tuple. Yeah, class is tuple. But if I change the grades to a list, and let's see what is going to happen in case of grades. So I'm going to say grades, and if I go, it goes to return a list. So you can see right here. There are a number of items or methods in the dictionary. For instance, we have a clear, deletes all the items in the dictionary. Dict.copy, copy a dictionary into another object or into another variable. Create a copy of the dictionary. We also have dict.from keys, create a new dictionary with keys from sequence and values set to value. Maybe we can try to do some of these things. So let's take, for instance, we want to create a dictionary. Let's say, okay, let's say dict.copy, dict.copy. So in this case, names. Let's see. Names is equal to dict.copy and specify names. So names 2. So hope I am getting it correctly. Okay. Okay, so we are talking about dictionaries at this point, so I can actually change it to students too. So these functions or these methods apply to dictionaries, and not to lists or tuple. So let's see. Okay, so we have created a copy of student called student, and that is fine. So dict.get key, and then it returns a value for that key, right? So basically it's the same as the name of the dictionary. So what we are saying is that student student's name is the same as dict.get dict.get wait, let's get it right. Okay, it's the same as dict.get student.get actually is same as student.get, and you specify name. So both are the same. So these two lines of items are actually the same. So dict.items returns a list of entries in a dictionary as key value pairs. Dict.keys return a list of all the dictionary's keys, and so on. So this is where day 7 ends. It's an interesting, simple day. Dictionary strings, dictionary tuples and lists. The key thing is know the difference between the three of them, because you might encounter it in a quiz, and know how to create all of them, and know the functions of these three of them. So we are done with day 7. Thumbs up to you if you've got to this point. And the next day, which is day 8, we are going to be talking about dates and time in Python. I'd like to thank you for viewing. Please subscribe. Please also like and share the video, and leave me a comment if this has been informative for you, or if you have some challenges you'd like me to give some support.